Alright, welcome to another edition of What the Fuck Happenings Here in Mendham, sort of. Yes, it isn't the old days, but sort of a cheap version of a class reunion or something. The basic atheist, whatever his name is, Toady, his brother, and Paul's ego are still a thing, apparently. And, so they made a video where they didn't mention me and antinatalism. So that seems worthy of notice and response of some kind. So I can't respond with much just because it's all kind of, 20 years of history, personal things, just... And then this sort of connects to fake Sagan a little bit, and the whole story. And so I did look him up, and he's got his channel back up, Christopher Anderson. Why anybody use their real name on the internet anymore? Bad idea. But anyway, and he's doing this, whatever this is. Some sort of gothic thing, where, it sort of connects where he used to be, which was, he's basically turning into some sort of 200-year-old character, I don't know, with, some sort of pagan religion almost. But, clearly he's got some issues with violence and aggression, and he still hasn't in any way mitigated against that with age, found some other outlet for his tension or anxiety regarding certain, I don't know, whatever the psychological thing is, whether it's an inferior thing or a superior thing. I guess either one in disproportion will cause you to demand something different from the world, and who knows, but who cares? Who cares? Psychology crap. But yeah, so he's just swinging heavy objects, so this is some sort of, I don't know, therapy. I don't know, he's got the tattoos and this, this music, and it is just sort of, it's all very difficult to fit it all together and say this is a rational psychiatric package. So yeah, I'd rather stay in the nut house I'm in than go visiting his. But anyway, it's kind of funny. So, Snake Plisskenus is also around, a Lord and Savior guy. He changed his name. He's finally given up on the playing the God delusion thing he was doing. His little bit of psychiatric stuff. And who knows whether that was just stress related or whether he's, a real schizophrenic, or who knows. But anyway, obviously he's just not very happy, struggling to, again, for the fourth time, try to migrate himself out of homelessness into some sort of stable existence in which he'll get bored and take way too many drugs and make stupid decisions, rinse, redo kind of a thing. So anyway, I guess that's a little context to this nostalgic thing. I suppose this is a little nostalgic to go visiting the past, and some of the past is still around, so it's nice that Paul and TJ, Taroja. I remember when he had this name, like this was his emblem for a while. And it seemed so funny to me because it just sounded like some sort of anal fungus, Taroja. It doesn't sound scary, it just sounds funny and ridiculous. But anyway, I just thought that was funny. So apparently he's not Taroja, he's Beer Count 9, so... I don't get the whole naming conventions, but whatever. Alright, so we'll jump through this one. And so they do talk about me a little bit. And well, which is well okay. Again, I had people who remember the past. I mean, me and Paul talked a lot. Spent quite a few hours talking about different things, and I found his perspective thoughtful and, in some respects, quite deep on some subjects, and well thought out, all that kind of crap. And I suppose TJ cornered, okay, where he's not being a performer, has a brain, and uses it, is articulate. He always had that advantage. But you just see such a utilization in both characters. It just seems like at some point they gave up, and this is what giving up looks like, And so they decided that they're smart enough to be a something, a person of merit, a person that knows a subject, like even if you got into physics or got into some of these other subjects, that they could excel, but it's all falling short. And I suppose I could, say to some extent I've also done that, but I don't know. I think I'm more engaged in still trying to be, to utilize the brain and not just entertain it. And so I guess you could say all the same thing about Fake Sagan and Snake Plisskenus, that they've just also, lost sight of the agenda, which I would argue is to try to maximize whatever potential you have, to try to utilize it in some constructive and productive way, to try to navigate a life where you hit right buttons instead of wrong buttons on all the other machines and all that kind of crap. That's the real challenge of this game. It isn't so much about making yourself happy, it's about hitting the right buttons on all the other pieces of shit. All the other Coke machines, just trying to reduce the chaos, reduce the waste, reduce the pain, reduce the, there's really no other agenda that's got any merit, logically, than easing the pain, wherever it is. Alright. So, yeah, I'll continue. I'll play some of this. Yeah, that's what I'll do. I just don't really understand any of that, but I don't even understand the whole beard culture thing. Yeah, well, you got to pick on some stuff too. It's just, this is, and the sunglasses and all this kind of I just cannot possibly, like real tattoos. I could never really relate to the body art thing in some other way than, you see it sometimes where they just like tiger stripe a woman or something. Yeah, I find that really appealing. But tattoos, mom, or something. No. A bunch of green shit growing. No. But so there's an art to it. I'd suppose that's like any other art. That's a matter of taste. But that doesn't mean anything to, saying it's a matter of taste doesn't really change the fact that it either looks good or it doesn't. It's either aesthetically reasonable or unreasonable. I mean, IQ tests even have some aesthetics in it. I mean, it's part of recognizing that you have intelligence, that you understand that symmetry is important in different things. And, if you can't recognize that, then you're going to tend to be stupid. So, but whatever. There's no point in ragging on it, but I just mean as a personal, do whatever you want, people. I don't care. I mean, stick any kind of crap and metal and do all your bullshit, but I don't get any of it. I just can't even imagine why I would even for a tiny moment think this was a reasonable thing for me to do. Just can't figure it out. I can't see it. I can't see how it fixes anything, does anything. Anyway, continuing. As a minimum as fodder, but yeah, I had a lot of good conversations with Paul. Okay, yeah, I mean we amused each other a little bit. Maybe you could argue, blah, 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 something like that. So I can't say anything, you know. But I do say, frankly, Paul gave up. He decided to quit being trying to be insightful, trying to be almost a guru in some sort of positive way, getting people to recognize what you can gain from this life experience, and instead just became Mr. Potato Head selling potatoes. I mean, it's just disappointing. And stupid all over the fucking place. Now, I would argue that these people are all smart enough to know that's the game. The game is just bacteria. We're just bacteria. Yeah, so he won't say he's an antinatalist, and they won't sit there and say that they can recognize these elemental arguments that life is insufficiently efficient, that the waste it makes it obvious that this isn't something you buy. This is a lemon, okay? The average life is a lemon, and even the above average life is some sort of yellow skinned fruit. It's not nearly good enough. That we're settling for it because we're basically built to do that. We're built to survive. We're not built to be smart. And that's the first thing you got to know when you're smart, is that you're not built to be smart. So you always have to protect the intelligence from the stupid bits, the impulse parts that just say, me hungry, me horny. You have to get past that and recognize that you have to do that me hungry, me horny thing in a context. Something like that. It just kind of perverts, again, something that should be about the subjects, and it's seldom is. Okay, I don't know what I was saying. Might have been about politics. Their video is just barely about antinatalism. Yeah, so that's what you could argue, that everything's trying to be entertaining or it's trying to be some other kind of thing, and it really is such a degrade in the quality of anything's structure. I mean, this shouldn't be... It's like engineering a nuclear power plant and doing it for fun. Okay, I mean, trying to make every element fun. Arguing about, well, should we use Duracell batteries or, cheap Chinese ones? It's all that's not the way to do anything productive, is to demand that it entertain you. It's not likely to work. Raising of other people's kids. Just a fact. So I went on about the whole... I'm a little surprised that there isn't a whole culture out there kind of for antinatalism and an argument just on the financial side of it alone. Just because now there are a substantial number of people, I mean, in the millions, tens of millions. It's a real voting bloc, okay? And that voting bloc hasn't organized itself, just like cigarette smokers didn't organize themselves to protect themselves against this onerous legislation. And, it's the same kind of thing. Like, I'm just amazed that there isn't any way to, people are so poor at recognizing that they have the power, they can do something, and they don't do anything. So all the single people who are paying huge giant tax bills to finance other people's child-rearing choice, they should at some point be protesting and saying, why do I have to pay for your decision to have kids? Why is it my problem? I mean, you pay to educate them, you pay to fix them, you pay to keep them healthy, you pay to do all that crap because you've decided to accept a risk. Why should I have to pay for your risk? Especially when you start adding up the budget for all the defective kids and how much money it takes to get one of those to 18 years old so it can drop dead. I mean, the insane amount of money they spend on, retarded kids who often have physical disabilities also and won't live very long anyway. And you're talking millions of dollars per kid. It doesn't make any sense. about eugenics, but if you're just talking about the fact that kids, okay, any kid, should be raised by civilized people. Yeah, it just comes up with the argument about parents' roles, all this kind of stuff. I really don't think that it's that hard to imagine, for me personally, that you could create an orphanage where there are responsible, good role model type people, doing their job, and they're just trying to educate the kids and keep them out of getting into too much trouble, and that they can do that in some kind of reasonable way where the environment is not some kind of horror house. And it doesn't seem that complicated. And in a way, it's it's a little bit like the Jewish kibbutz kind of thing. I mean, I'm not a big fan of overcrowding, so I wouldn't argue dorm rooms and all that kind of stuff. But I think you could certainly create an environment where kids could be nurtured, where they don't need parents. I mean, boarding school sort of does that. I mean, it doesn't ruin kids. A lot of people, it makes real citizens out of them. So it's not an outrageous thing to say that parents they're just as much a liability, in the sense that they're so myopic. They're only one version of choice, where it's almost like if you have different role models, you can make, as a kid, you can make choices, and you can understand the difference between these different agendas. And that would be, I think, a healthier way to be nurtured into civilization. Get cancer till they're 117, and so the eugenics thing came up, and there are some rational ideas of eugenics. It's not all about some sort of subjective, bigoted notion of pretty. There's real health things, and the fact is that we could be engineering humans to be genetically stronger, and we're not even coming close to even trying. It's like it's almost an anti-meme that a bunch of people who had to have surgery, they had to have nose jobs, they had to have this, they have to do this, they have to do that, and then they go out and have a kid expecting the kid to somehow is going to inherit their surgery. That's not going to happen. It's really quite silly, frankly. And I'm going to just put some context on that, in that some of this is it's inescapable, frankly, to recognize some attachment to your narrative. And your narrative... sorry, I fell asleep. So I was... There's no delicate way to say that, I don't want to concede that I'm, in some element of me, is racist. But I am conceding that I can't say I can't see the differences, and I can't say that some of the differences are annoying. That some of the, and mostly about culture, I would argue, and it's a lot less about pretty or ugly, attractive or unattractive, and it's mostly about behavior. I mean, behavior is huge, in terms of making something appealing, in my opinion. So how, standing with some sort of dignity, maintaining dignity is attractive. But there's no denying that there is this difference between, but ugly, okay, and pretty. And some of that I recognize as just being a crude and factual bigotry. That aesthetic notion is, in most cases, doesn't have anything to do with any kind of rationally defendable statement. But you could argue the symmetry arguments are always kind of obvious. Brains do tend to seek symmetry. But anyway, so even now, it's a kind of too messy a subject for. It's like somebody, I'm not good enough at throwing those darts. So, I'll end up throwing the dart into the kid's balloon or something. So, I mean, I'm just not good enough at playing with language to even mess with this. These are the kind of dangerous subjects that just don't get you anywhere. Your effort to be honest won't get you anywhere. So I should just let it go. But I didn't. So you've already sort of said that, but okay, yes, we got this. And it just seems kind of funny, right, that everybody doesn't agree. Yes, that everybody doesn't agree on the simple basics, that we can't form any kind of structured laws or even suggestions or even billboards, or the government does so little to impose some sort of higher standard for not only getting pregnant, having babies, nurturing kids. All of that stuff is fairly underemphasized in terms of any real pressure put on people in any kind of reward and punishment kind of way. So we certainly could have incentives for teenagers anyway not to get pregnant by offering them financial rewards, and it would cost us so much less in the long run. I mean, every one of the welfare kids we prevent is just a huge, giant benefit in terms of you're paying $50,000 or $60,000 a year versus just paying $1,000. But anyway, that we really should be incentivizing. Do as much of the carrot stuff as possible, and don't use the stick unless you really have to. But there has to be something in this culture that does make it punitive, because if you don't make it punitive, they're just going to keep doing it.
Basic needs that the child needs to be nurtured and grow up, then I don't think
what all that is, right? Again, all this nurture thing, who knows what the strategy. Just look at all the nuts that came out of very stable families. So I mean, it's this whole idea that you can even manufacture this thing, mental health, that there's some you could have some kind of plan to get your kid through their adolescence without some sort of perversion or distortion or bending or crippling or breaking of some sort of psychological capacity, that makes them weaker rather than stronger. I mean, the subtlety of how you become psychiatrically disabled is so subtle that you can't even. There's almost no way to diagram a safe route. What's the safe route for raising a kid so you don't end up with a psycho killer, or even just somebody who cheats on his wife or some other kind of crap? The strategy is, do you force your kid to play the piano? Do you force your... Oh, yeah. So when do you let him cut the grass and all that kind of shit? I saw a kid cutting the grass the other day, and he probably shouldn't have been, he was like 19. I still wouldn't let him touch a lawnmower. I mean, the world is turned into such a... it's just... There's so few things that walk by that you just say, that one's working. They all look crippled, Taint of depression. That's a good line. Let's see what that was about. They're both important, frankly. So it's, I think, parents driving you to depression through incidental mistakes that they couldn't possibly know were mistakes until hindsight gave them that insight. About, how much worse somebody had it, how much... so they were doing the meme of, you people is all weak because we was strong and, the greatest generation kind of crap. Like, like they were all pristine, people had so much more character. Now, I have to argue, I have to defend the notion that, I feel gapped. I mean, I feel like, I don't see the huge breakdown from, say, somebody born in 1900 versus somebody born in 1950, but I do see a huge breakdown between 1950 and 1990. Humans have just become so... They're such uninteresting bugs. I mean, as bugs go, they're just turning into slugs.
Yes, that had it. Errol Musk.
Errol Musk.
Oh, so they, a little bit of Muskisms show up. They like making kids that they don't really give a shit about, and I don't know what the purpose of them is. I don't really understand any of that crap, where celebrities and the rest of them, they have kids when they're 75, and I guess the only reason why they do it is they're just indulging the woman. She wants to do this, so she somehow doesn't feel like a slut. But shit. Sorry, it's just too silly. I mean, if you're going to bother having this thing, then you really should be obliged to care about it. Ugh. This moron. I mean, don't take any of it seriously. Don't recognize, any of the... so this is about the commenter, not the participants. So don't be confused. They are morons, but it's a different level of moron. So this was just, I think this was sort of just a fake meme. But anyway, somebody writing his little story about why his whore won't is going to have an abortion, but he doesn't want the responsibility of the kid, and I'm sure he doesn't want the financial responsibility. But he doesn't think she should have an abortion because it's his kid. So basically he wants to father children, but, wants somebody else to pay for it, for sure. Perfectly articulate. So, for Jabba the Hutt, he's doing okay. So I guess that's a little slight against Paul. But anyway, these aren't the people going to fix anything on planet Earth. Yeah, so that's the problem with all these people talking. Is that none of the talk is in some kind of form that can, create any kind of hope for inspiring or inciting mechanisms that will create anything that fixes anything or changes anything. Now, I'm in the same position, but at least I'm trying, where they're just entertainers. They're not really trying. And, so there's, I think, less likelihood of that working. Fixing the world isn't going to be fun. And, it's tedious and annoying work. And you really can't have a good time doing it. Doing anything, I mean, it's just sort of the truth. Like, you want to help somebody, it always takes work and time and effort. It's never for free. They might poop on you or something. There's all kinds of things that'll, you have to pay to be nice. Nice isn't free. Seldom. It's seldom win-win. You have to pay for it. So trying to be nice to the world is work, and do the world a favor. So that is sort of related to the fact that, we are at GoogleIsEvil 99, so there'll only be one more, and then I'll give up. And it's just annoying that, so I spent 2 years trying to get that idea in people's heads that, we should expect a better internet than this, controlled by these corporations, these monopolies. And they can do whatever the fuck they want now. And Google is showing it in the sense that search results suck. There's ads all over the place now. So, the whole promise that we need a non-commercial alternative. They were going to save the internet from a circumstance where it had a lot of diversity, but it had to be, financed diversity. And Google basically just destroyed the economic viability of all other companies by basically... using a big pile of money, a William Randolph Hearst plan. Drive everybody out of business by losing money for 3 or 4 years. So if you're willing to lose a lot of money for 3 or 4 years, you can drive everybody else out of business, and then you own the territory. And then it's going to be harder and harder for anybody to get back in because you're going to be too big to fight. And we really shouldn't have the internet run by these corporations. Everybody should be able to agree there should be some guaranteed minimums on the internet protected by our we the people government, and these basic functions of being able to communicate with each other should be functions that are now foundational, and that we all agree as a society these are things worthy of protection. But anyway, yeah, it's all on deaf ears. So I haven't been able to motivate much. But the fact that they're talking about antinatalism, I mean, I think to some extent they're talking about it because of some pushing I did. I think. I mean, you know, it would be nice to be able to see the world with or without me. So I would like to see that, you know, movie, you know, just to see what goes different. But yeah, who knows? It doesn't really matter. I'm just saying that, you know, I can use the Yodeism that there's only do or do not do. There is no try. But the fact is there is, okay? So it's not a very good Yodeism in some respects. I mean, the fact is it's an outcome. There's just winning and losing. But trying is essential to winning. Because you're not going to do it without trying to win. You're not going to accidentally win. You really are going to have to try to win. So, yeah. So I think that's probably enough. So maybe during the week I'll spend a little time on Snake Plisskenus. You know, it's just because, you know, he's really in a bad spot, and he's, you know, and you know, there's, I mean, it is a good commercial, okay, for antinatalism. So it's probably worthy of exploitation for that purpose, but you know, there's a human being there that I had some associations with, and so it's just hard to separate all that. All these stories, everybody has a story, and if you really know their story, it's, you know, a lot of the stories are interesting. But I wouldn't want to, you know, I wouldn't want to read that whole book. You know, I'll just glance through it because it has way too many pages that are just too embarrassing and stupid, and oh fuck, I wouldn't want to be that asshole kind of stuff. So till the next time and such.